This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards. Finding Moonlight is a poetry collection for those who are looking for an answer. It's for those who are looking for a sign. There's no such thing as a cure for the things that haunt you at night. No matter what, you are worth every breath that you take. Find knowledge and hope in the light at the end of the tunnel. These poems are meant to be a breath of fresh air for those who feel silenced. Find comfort in knowing that there will always be glimpses of light in the darkness. The author is Sophia Ramsey. Sophia is a published poet and student. She believes greatly in destigmatizing mental health and the treatment surrounding it. Sophia finds her own safe haven in writing and loves to share her own struggles with mental health in her poetry. Sophia has been composing poems as a way to cope with her clinical depression diagnosis. As Sophia has struggled with herself, she found comfort in writing about her feelings. She is a productive high school student and student athlete. When she isn't writing poems, she finds comfort in reading, volleyball, and watching cheesy horror movies. Happy to have Sophia Ramsey here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you had all these poems. What made you decide to put it in book form?
My sophomore English teacher, Miss White, she had me enter into a poetry contest one day because she just thought that it was really good. And after I got an award for that contest, she just encouraged me, since I loved writing them and since I loved kind of putting my feelings down on paper. She just suggested that I keep all of them. And then after I won a contest, I was contacted about publishing all of those poems together, which was just amazing.
When did you start writing poems, Sophia?
I started writing poems in the 8th grade.
Has this helped?
I can't even explain how much this has helped me. And I encourage anyone who is struggling with their feelings or emotions to write them down on paper. Especially, I didn't want to talk to people about them. It was kind of a taboo type of thing. I just thought people might think I'm crazy. So I just liked writing them down, and eventually it really did help. It was kind of an outlet for me when I didn't feel like I had anybody else.
We're chatting with Sophia Ramsey here on Speaking of Writers. Finding Moonlight is her new book. It's a poetry collection. It is available at writersrepublic.com, amazon.com, and barnesandnoble.com as well. So what was it like publishing your very first book here with Writers Republic?
Oh my God, I can't even, Writers Republic has been so helpful throughout this whole process. Since I am a teenager, I don't have a degree or anything like that, so I'm not really in the journalism, in the writing world. So they've been so helpful kind of navigating this world and this whole process. And this was just an amazing experience. I'm so grateful for it.
What was the feeling like when you finally got it published?
Elation. I just felt like all this work I'd put in, all these hard feelings and things that I had to kind of go through to realize that I was going to put this out in the world. And it was just, I just felt like a weight had been lifted off my chest. Like it was finally like I could really heal now.
Sophia, how did you narrow it down to pick these poems that are in this book, Finding Moonlight?
So I submitted 100 and they picked around 50. The 100 I picked were the ones I felt that I was most spontaneous in writing. It was the ones that I was sitting in a restaurant and I'd write them down on a napkin, or I'm sitting in class and I'd write them down on a bookmark. Just the ones, as soon as they came to me, I wrote. I felt like those were the best representation of what I wanted my book to be like.
So it sounds like you can write anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Yeah.
You don't need a special place. You don't need quiet. You mentioned you could write in a restaurant.
No, it's just as soon as the thought kind of comes to me, it's like all the verses come to me at the same time. Like it all kind of paints a picture and I just write it down.
So as part of the process, when you are writing it down, you have to finish the entire poem when you write it, right? Or can you come back to it?
I do kind of have to finish it. It's like everything I start, I always have to finish. But definitely sometimes it takes me a little bit more time. I'll finish it later in the day, but I would say I finish all of them in the same day.
Let's talk about what I mentioned in the introduction. about writing to destigmatize mental health. Talk about that a little bit.
So when I was feeling the way I did, there was a lot of things going on in the media and in politics about different things with people who were mentally ill, and then they just kind of labeled them as crazy, and that's why they did these things. So when I kind of started feeling the way I did, feeling alone, feeling hopeless, I just thought, well, I don't want to tell anybody because my parents will send me away, or somebody's going to label me as crazy. And then one day it all just kind of boiled over, and I confessed to my dad. I was just like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And it was the craziest thing. My dad just looked at me and was like, well, Sophia, I felt the way you did when you were little. I've
Mm.
I've gone through the exact same thing you have. Like, you'll be fine. I'm still here. You'll still be here. So it was just, I need to stress the importance to people of asking for help. Because if I wouldn't have gotten to that point with my father, I truly don't know where I would be. I really have no idea where I would be right now. So just being able to talk to someone and being able to have different people, different platforms that you can ask for help, I think is so incredibly important, especially for young people right now.
Speaking of young people, you are in high school. What is it like, Sophia, being an author and being in high school?
It's definitely something.
Mm.
It's kind of odd to be working on your book and then having to get up and go to chemistry class right after that, or so it's definitely a little odd. It feels like there's a lot going on, but I wouldn't give it up for the world. It's been amazing.
What's been the feedback from your friends in the high school about this book and your poems?
That's another really important thing because a lot of them, when they're reading these poems, they had no idea that I was feeling like that.
Mm.
Which, I mean, a lot of people, again, they don't really want to express how they're feeling. So I think letting people know, my friends know that I was going through that, I think it's helped them grow. I think it's helped me grow. And they're all just so incredibly proud of me. And it's so amazing.
Mm. Chatting with Sophia Ramsey here on Speaking of Writers. Her new book, Book of Poems, is Finding Moonlight. It is available at writersrepublic.com, amazon.com, and also barnesandnoble.com. The title, Sophia, Finding Moonlight, where did that come from?
Yeah. My grandmother, my
Mm.
grandmother has always told me, I love you to the moon and back. And so in a dark place, I always just think of finding that light she keeps talking about. So it didn't even take me more than 10 seconds to choose the title. I knew immediately what it was going to be.
What's been the feedback from your grandmother? Is she your biggest critic?
A little bit. She definitely is a little hard on me that I didn't talk to her about my feelings sooner, but she loves all the poems. There's actually one in my book entitled Grandma, speaking just about her warmth and her energy. And when she first read it, she cried, and that made me feel very, very good, very special.
So that's one of the poems. I'm going to ask you this question. I always ask authors, and they always say it's like these are like their children. Do you have a couple of favorites?
I do. I know I should. They are like my children. I hate saying that I have some more than the other, but there are definitely a few that are my favorites. Grandma, which of course is about my grandma. Your Choice, which is about my other grandma on my mother's side. It's about struggling with a disorder with no cure. She has Parkinson's disease. So it's kind of about battling with that and knowing that, she's slowly slipping away a little bit. And that one's definitely a favorite of mine. And then, oh goodness, I think Winter is
Mm.
my last favorite. And Winter's just kind of about different experiences and grief, um, losing people and having to deal with that as a child while your family is also grieving. It's difficult.
Do you enjoy reading poetry too?
I do, absolutely.
Inspirations in terms of poets for you?
I really, really enjoy the classics. I really enjoy um, Edgar Allan Poe. I know it's a
Mm.
little like, but he is one
Oh
of my
yeah.
favorites.
Well, that would make sense with your love of cheesy horror movies too.
Yeah, yes, yes.
What other genres do you like reading?
Um, ooh, that's a tough one. I really, really like historical fiction, which
Mm,
is kind of weird. I had a really big phase of reading like World War II kind of time-based books, and the I Survived children's books. You couldn't tear me away from one of those in
mm.
elementary school. They were my absolute favorite.
So I mentioned too that you like playing volleyball, and you do play volleyball.
Yes.
When you're on that volleyball court, you thinking about poems at all? Does it help
Yeah,
you with your
not
writing?
sometimes they do. It does give me a lot of inspiration, but no, I'm mostly thinking about not getting hit in the face and things like that.
And cheesy horror movies, what are some of your favorites?
Scream,
Mm,
definitely.
good
Scream
one.
is a top contender. I love the Nightmare Before Christmas, the Disney movie. It's
Yes.
my all-time favorite. I just love that one to death.
And Sophia, what's the main message you would like readers to take away from Finding Moonlight?
The main message I want readers to take away from my book is simply that you are never, ever, ever alone. There are people all over the world, people sitting next to you, people on the same street as you, the same neighborhood as you that feel the way you do. And that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, even though it might be so, 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 so dim at some point.
Mm.
Just know that it's always there and that there are always people rooting for you and there are always people and places that you can go to get the support that you need.
So you got the first book of poems done. Are you working on your sophomore effort?
I actually am. Again, I write poems at a scary rate. So I'm just kind of keeping them around. And then when the time comes and I think there's enough, I'll submit them again. And me and Writers Republic will go have the same amazing adventure.
Mm. The book is Finding Moonlight. Sophia Ramsey is the author, and it's available at writersrepublic.com, also amazon.com, and barnesandnoble.com. Sophia, thank you so much for joining me.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
This is Speaking of Writers. I'm Steve Richards.